Hello and welcome to the Hospitality Twins podcast. I'm Jerry Reyes.
And I'm Ramon Reyes. Tourism offers us an opportunity to visit new places and experience new and exciting attractions.
But it's the people within the hospitality industry that make these experiences unique and memorable.
We look forward to shedding light on the talented people who make the hospitality industry special.
And also to providing coaching and career tips to those seeking to join our industry.
This week's guest is Mrs. Nelly Chiwala. Nelly currently serves as Director of Rooms at the Meridien Atlanta Perimeter Hotel. Over the course of this episode, Nelly shares details related to how she has excelled in our industry, what she feels has made her successful in leading change management, and also what she looks for when recruiting top talent. Her story is like many in our industry. She started from the bottom and worked her way up. We thoroughly enjoyed our conversation with Nelly, and we hope you enjoyed it as well. Well, Nelly, tell our listeners a little bit about how you got your start in the industry and what's led to your extensive room division experience within the hotels.
My passion, I think, for this industry started with my love for customer service. And I think the whole just being able to engineer a guest experience is what steered me into the hospitality industry. So I went to college first. And then I came here. I'm actually from Zambia. So I came to the United States in 99 through a hospitality internship. And I think it was the perfect opportunity. And that allowed me to work in all different areas of the hotel. Kind of started in engineering, accounting, sales, the kitchen, food and beverage. And then one day they said, you're going to the desk. And so coming from a whole nother country, I was very scared because now I had to face people face to face. I was concerned about my accent. Would people understand me? And then the first day at the front office, at the front desk, I found my niche. And that was really the beginning of my rooms journey.
Wow. That's awesome. You have a similar story to many people in this industry, right? You come in, people see the potential that you have and the talent that you have, and then afford you the opportunity to kind of continue to move up. And your story is a remarkable one, and probably one that a lot of people can relate to. What are some of the things, just when you think back to that journey, and when people said, hey, you're going to the desk, or someone told you were going to the desk, what do you think that they saw in you that said, man, Nelly's going to be a great asset to us on the front end, where people can see her and just really have her be part of their experience?
One of my first managers, and this may not even be for the radio to say, was he always said, you're such a bullshitter. It's like, here's the shovel, go and take it. And it was more of like being a people person, being able to acclimate in any situation. I think the first time I really interacted with more people was when I was in food and beverage, and it was the way I interacted with the guests, just being able to interact with every type of person. If they make a joke about something, it's always funny. If they say something, I have something to rebut with regarding that particular conversation. So it was then that they said, you know what, she actually might be great at the desk because she loves to talk. So let's take her over there. So I think it's just different qualities that they saw in the different areas, whether it was a quiet person or somebody who's Hispanic and there was a language barrier, I would still make ways for me to somehow have dialogue with them. So it was a come full circle for me. But, as I said, it was scary for me because I knew at the front office, I would have to interact with people all the time. And in the other departments you do, but not as much.
Yeah. It's interesting. So you and I probably both know this. Jerry knows this too. We were just having a conversation about this as well in one of our last podcasts, that we're in the people business. And if you can find a way to relate to people, as you just mentioned, and have those conversations where one, how to read those signs. And you and I both worked for W for a long time, and Jerry did as well, where we're trained on how to do that. But
Yes.
those that are great in our industry or do such a great job in our industry know how to do that well, know how to read the customers, know how to understand and anticipate their needs, and know what they need or they want before they even do, and be able to engage them in those conversations. So it seems like, to me, and having worked with you, again, I know that that's a knack that you have and something that you really do well at, both with the guests and also internally with your fellow coworkers as well.
Thank you.
If I could piggyback on that, I do think that's a great point in that, all of the skills that we've learned, and you talked about it, Ramon, with W, are skills that we can apply to both our internal and external guests. So it's definitely something that assists us in navigating, our relationships with guests as well as with our coworkers. But Nelly, I have the next question here for you. So over the course of your career, you've worked within hotels that have rebranded as well as brands that have shifted their focus and their image. How have you navigated and contributed to that change management process?
I believe, or I think that being able to embrace change and just new culture is something that's difficult. Over the years, I've worked in different hotels. I've gone through be working for a corporate owned to a franchise, or from when we became franchise, then we went through changes in management companies. And then the biggest one for me, I would say, is when we moved from Starwood to Marriott. So once you go through all these changes, I think what was key for me was just to learn to adapt to different approaches of how we do business, because every person or every ownership group or company, everything came with something different that you would have to take and change. So I think for me, it took a lot of patience, a lot of dedication, because I love what I do. But the goal, also the focus for me, was that my mission was the same. I had to give superior quality service, and I had to lead teams that would do this. So with every change, I had to figure out, what can I bring that will be new to the table, that fresh idea for this particular brand. So now we're Meridien. What are we doing different than we did when we were W? And then how do I streamline these processes? How do you motivate the team to make sure everybody's kind of in the right place, doing the right thing? So for me, it was just the different pieces, the components of even just bringing the people together, for me to have the right people doing the right thing and changing mindsets in the workplace of, we did it this way before, so now we're not saying lifts anymore because that was for a different brand. Now they're
Right,
elevators. Or
right.
so it was just, yes, just bringing out a different culture and just moving things along and putting processes in place that I was responsible for, to make sure that the teams were executing.
Yeah.
Well, and I love how you phrase that in terms of having the right people doing the right things and really ensuring that the right people are in the right places, right? And one of the things that I experienced, and you did as well, so I'm sure you know how difficult it was, and you mentioned it, was that transition from Starwood to Marriott. And what a lot of people don't realize is that literally changed everything on the back end. Literally
Yes.
every system, even if you were on Lightspeed as a PMS, it changed from a Starwood Lightspeed to a Marriott Lightspeed. It involved a
Yes.
full cutover process. I was there for it as well, so I know the pains that you felt. But at the same time that you were experiencing all of these system changes and all of these changes, maybe some major, some minor, from a process or SOP perspective from Starwood to Marriott, you also still had to run the hotel. You still had to ensure that every operation was functioning, because at the end of the day, to the guest, you can't tell them, oh, we're converting from Starwood to Marriott, so this is gonna take another 5-10 minutes. That just wasn't something that was possible. So I know that was something that was very difficult. So I commend you for navigating through that. And it is exactly what you mentioned in terms of making sure that you find the balance between it all.
Expounding upon that very subject, and you talked about that change in branding and processes and terminology. What did you specifically look for at that recruiting phase when you're looking for talent, the people that were going to be part of your team?
So my goal, once we got news that this is happening, my goal was really to put together a great team, because I knew that was going to be essential for my success. So what I had to do, well, we still had associates on property, and then we had some people who didn't really feel that they wanted to be part of the change. So I had to identify people, or rather team members, I had to identify what their strengths and their weaknesses were, because I had to figure out who, as Jerry had mentioned previously, who am I leaving on the front line? Who am I having in the back that will help me get to T0? And so I had to figure out what are the strengths, what are the weaknesses, because I had to put them in roles that would bring their strengths to life, because that's the only way that I felt that we were going to be able to build, and was to be able to just build on people's strengths, and we were going to be successful with putting the right people in the right places.
You hit on so many great points there. And I think that when we hire talent associates, when we bring someone onto the team, we've seen something in them that makes us feel like they are the right members of the team. But as things evolve and things change, so should our mindset in understanding where that person is best suited, in terms of tapping into where their strengths are and putting them in a position where we're going to expose their strengths and minimize their weaknesses, and vice versa. So, I think you are taking the right approach, or have taken the right approach, with regards to finding the right place for those individuals. I'm a firm believer that we look for people in our industry that can really relate to guests and associates alike, that we know we're going to treat everyone that walks through our doors as if they're welcoming them into our home, and really have that genuine sense of hospitality that's part of them at their core. And we can train you on the rest. The rest of that stuff is easy, right? We can train you on the systems. We can do all this other stuff, but especially for those in the front of the house, it's important to find individuals that we know will achieve that. And that's our number one priority. At the end of the day, whatever else we do is not important if we don't take care of that one immediate need and goal, which is to make sure that everyone feels comfortable, that everyone feels like we're welcoming them into our home. And then when everyone feels like they're getting something different, a different experience as part of that brand and that hotel. And that only happens, is only achieved through the people. And so that just brings me back to that recruitment process is what's key. Find the right person, bring them in the building, and then find where they're best suited. And that's definitely still just as important when you're changing or managing that change management process and going from whether it be one brand to another, or when you haven't achieved goals and you're trying to excel and establish new goals that you can achieve going into the new year, and so on and so forth. I appreciate your approach, and I think it's dead on.
Thank you.
And if I can just kind of piggyback on that, I think that what Ramon said is spot on. Typically, I know when I'm interviewing folks, is the first thing that I'm looking for is their smile. You can't teach someone how to have a good smile or a genuine smile, but also just someone who has that desire to grow, someone who has a natural talent to interact with others. Really, at the end of the day, we can't teach those things, but to Ramon's point, we can teach everything else. So it's important to make sure that we look for those key ingredients in that first interview, or that first interaction that we have with those that we're looking to onboard. So couldn't agree more with that. But Nelly, I'm going to bounce back just a little bit. Hearing what you're talking about today, and obviously you've worked with Ramon, but looking at your wonderful track record, I see that you've had an amazing amount of growth in the hospitality industry. What would you say is that key aspect of how you approach things that led to you seeing success in this industry?
For me, I think it really took a lot of, I think it was drive and personal ambition. From the time I stepped foot into the industry, finished college, and I went into the hotels, I knew I wanted to grow. I knew this is where I needed to be. So it became a passion for me, and I didn't want to stay in one place. I needed to keep moving forward. I think another thing that kind of helps me is, or I feel like people should have an innate desire to serve, because it's very difficult if you don't. You always feel as though, well, why do I have to do it for them? Because I'm a person too. So why are you talking to me like that? But if you have an innate desire to serve, it just comes naturally. So one of the other things for me also is that I was fortunate to work with major hospitality brands. I kind of started with Starwood, and bigger brands, or rather I should say the brands that I worked for, they excelled in the customer service experience. So I came up in the industry working for brands that believed in great customer service. And then there's another key part for me. I worked with phenomenal leaders. I know, like Ramon said, I haven't talked to him in so long, but he was one of the leaders. When I went to the W Hotel, his leadership style was so different. It was so genuine, so down to earth. It caused me to think of my journey and what kind of leader that I wanted to be. So then, as you grow and you work with different people who are instrumental in helping you achieve my goal, he was one of the people that was part of it. So then, as I continued my journey with other leaders, I was able to obtain my goal. I was able to achieve success and promotions along the way. And, being part of the bigger brands, and I don't know if this works with smaller brands. I apologize if they do. I just haven't worked for smaller brands. I was able to participate in trainings and workshops that were designed to help me shape my focus. And so as my journey continued, there was just different things that were put in my path that allowed me to just be better at my job. One week I would go and I'm a Six Sigma green belt, and the following week I was sent over to become a service culture trainer. So different things that I've experienced in my journey have caused me to kind of keep moving on in the industry.
You make a great point there, and the differences between branded hotels and independent hotels. And I think that every one of them has an approach to what their desired level of customer service is, right? They're all going to put their little spin on it, and everybody has their different trainings. But at the end of the day, I think that everybody has the right formula. It's really about the consistency with which they're able to deliver it. And a lot of times you find that there's a more checks and balances with a branded hotel, with Starwood or Marriott, with whether it be GSS or the LRA audits that inspect what they expect, right? So I think
Yeah.
that you bring up a good point there. It helps you form your thought process in terms of how to approach things strategically, and not making a rash decision or a quick decision, as opposed to taking the time to take the right steps to analyze something before you make a decision. So thank you for that.
Nelly, I'd like to, one first, thank you for your kind comments. I appreciate that. And, I always looked at everyone that we've worked with, that I've worked with, and I know Jerry looks at it the same, as we're a family. And so my approach to leadership has always been that. But more importantly, my approach has been dead on with what you just mentioned. Is it's service mindset. I am here to serve you. Even as a leader, I am here to serve you. So what do you need? And I think you're exactly right that those that are successful, most of those that are successful in our industry, have that at their core, that they understand that our purpose in life in many ways is to serve others. And we have the good fortune of doing it every single day within our industry. And so I could not, agree more with you. And I, in our time working together, I mean, we had a great time. That's part of working in the hospitality industry. We have fun. And we also serve a lot of people, and we're fortunate, so fortunate to be part of so many memories for people coming in for weddings, for anniversaries, for even those tough times like funerals. But we have an opportunity to inject ourselves in the memory and be of service to them and really create some positive memories. And so, I think that you've embodied that over the course of your career, and we're talking about internally and externally. And there's no surprise here from my standpoint that you've been successful and had such a great career. I've known you to be such an energetic and passionate hospitality professional. And as I mentioned, I mean, that's important in our industry, especially for those that are leaders. Developing that engaged team is one of those things that I consider to be extremely important, since our associates interactions, will depend heavily on our success to sort of have that, what we call an omni, that mirror image with them. We need to embody everything as leaders that we expect them to embody with guests. So, what have you found to be most successful in fostering that high level of engagement with your team, such that your team, your people, those that you surround yourself with, are just as passionate about this industry as you are?
Culture. Oh, I think over the years, I've had different people in my team, and I feel as though the culture was key to just kind of bringing us all together, for them to understand what I wanted to achieve, my overall picture at the end of the day. So how I feel is that you have to get to know your team. You have to allow them also to know you a little bit better, just so that they understand your management style and where you're coming from. I felt as though this has helped me develop and foster like trust with my associates, reliability, dependability, because I know they're going to want to come in and do this because they know they're coming to work, and then being reliable depends on a lot for the hotels. Over the years, the companies that I've worked for, I learned our mission statements. Why are we doing what we're doing? So I had to go over our mission statements, whatever we had, and I had to figure out a way to bring this to life for my team on a day-to-day basis. Like, how is it real life? So we have this statement, everybody reads it, but then what does it mean to you? Or most companies, when they create a statement, it's for all their brands. So how does it relate to us here at this particular hotel? So once I figured out goals and ways for me to kind of bring the mission statement to the team and them understanding it on a day-to-day basis, it helped me create a culture. And my goal was to create a strong culture, because I feel as though that helps the work environment. Like, if, like as you said, making a work environment that's enjoyable, it helps people contribute to not just the hotel, but also want to contribute to their success. So it was very important to me. And then over the years, as I continued my journey, training and sharing my knowledge became important. It's a passion for me as a leader to know that I can be part of somebody's growth. I can be part of somebody else's journey. So I do everything that I can on a daily basis to take the knowledge that I have to share with the people around me, so that everybody feels as though they have the tools and they have everything that they need to do their jobs, and they feel empowered in that moment. I can do this because she kind of showed me how I can handle a situation when a guest is very upset, or how to take care of guests in just different ways. When somebody walks up, and as you said, people come for different reasons. They have a funeral, they're celebrating a wedding. Which emotion should I use right now to make this guest feel special? So that's been part of my growth. And so that's why for me, I really believe that culture is key.
I love to hear you say that. And agree 100%. And I also love your approach. The fact that you find a way to say, okay, how does this relate to us? And how does this relate to you? I personally believe that you want to work within an organization, within a hotel, where your values, your personal values, are somewhat synonymous with the company's values. So how does it relate to you? Because we are fortunate to have a lot of people, like you mentioned earlier, love what they do. I do too. My brother does too. I never regret waking up and coming to work. I love what I do.
Mhm.
And it's in large part because I feel like the organization and the property that I'm fortunate to run, our values are synonymous, and the mission is the same. We're here to serve people. We're here to excel. We want nothing but the best for our guests, nothing but the best for our associates as well. So I commend you for that. I think that is exactly 100% the right approach.
One thing I'll add to that, and you made a great point when you mentioned that every brand, every company is going to have their own vision and mission statement, but it's easy to put it out there, right? It's easy to just have that be on our website, on our back ends, on our intranets, but it comes to life at the property, right? So I appreciate the way that you approach it. Just as Ramon mentioned, based on that vision and mission, you looked at even from how you train them, ensuring that you're gaining their trust and building a culture that supports driving that mission is what
Mhm.
realizes success. So definitely kudos to you for taking that approach.
Thank
So
you.
Nelly, how has this pandemic impacted the process that your team follows as it relates to cleanliness and sanitation?
When COVID happened, or rather after COVID happened, we had to kind of sit down and think about what processes we would take. Of course, you had a lot of housekeepers. Initially, we had furloughed all our associates except two. Then there was the concern of, well, I'm going in the room and I don't understand what's going on in there, and how will I know? So that we had to start with training, just to talk about it, to make them more knowledgeable about what COVID is and how it spreads and what to do. And then we had to start almost not really from the basics, but from the basics, because we had to do things like temperature checks on a daily basis. We had to talk about hand hygiene, wash your hands. If you get a moment and you take your gloves off, you need to wash your hands. We had to go through talking to our vendors that supply us with the chemicals, making sure that they have chemicals that are CDC approved. And so everything that we're doing became different. We now clean our rooms a little bit longer. We have to spray and leave them for 24 hours before we go back in them, to continue servicing them. We're not servicing our stay over guests unless they absolutely ask for service. So we have to, there's a procedure which takes a few hours for us to complete. So it's increased our labor, but it makes the associates feel safe. It makes the guests feel safe. So that was the goal of it, was to make sure that our associates kind of felt safe in the whole situation of them being the ones that are the front line, the housekeepers going in, and just being comfortable with coming to work on a day-to-day basis. Everybody walks in after the temp check. Everybody has to grab a mask. Nobody's walking around without one. So you know, in the middle of the day, if anybody's not feeling well, we do the same thing. So just different processes that we've added to our day to day to ensure that everybody is safe.
One of the things that I believe has happened through all of the efforts that we're making, we're using the electrostatic sprayers. You mentioned the team's hygiene, going back to the basics, looking at retraining everyone. Right, we've done all of those things, but what
Mm.
we've also found, and that's reassuring, that's ensuring that we as an industry are approaching this the right way. We're doing everything we can and need to do to ensure that the traveler is feeling comfortable with coming into our hotel, with the processes that they see us doing, right? But
Yes.
one of the things that I've found is that even with all of that, which is to be expected, the expectations from the customers is to see all of that. Not that we weren't doing it before, but that they want to see more of it. It brings comfort to them, knowing that we're taking all of these measures to ensure that their hygiene, or that our hygiene and their safety is a priority for us right now. Have you seen a difference in expectation of your guests based on this pandemic happening?
Absolutely. I think every so it's weird because people are traveling, but then they're so scared as they travel. So we'll have the guest who appreciates that we're not going to go into their guest room to service, but we also have that guest who is confused as to why, because I don't have COVID, so why wouldn't you come in my room? But then
Right.
also simple things that wouldn't really have mattered in the past matter now. So if they walk in and they find something simple, even a speck on the wall that shouldn't be there, but it's there, it causes the whole, oh my God, I can't believe this. This is time. This is like COVID. Why is there this thing in my room? Some guests won't allow you to, after we clean and we sanitize the door, they won't allow you to even touch the door. So I've seen a difference in the way guests are traveling. Sometimes guests will walk in and instantly say, "Hey, do you have sanitizer that I can take with me before I even check in?" So everyone is treating it differently. There are some people who you'll have conversations about a mask. Would you mind putting on that mask? And they don't want to because they feel the virus is just a hoax, or everyone has a different opinion. So yes, I have seen a difference in what guest expectations are when they come to the hotel.
And one of the things you mentioned earlier, and it's so true, is that we've seen travel come back in spurts, right? We're seeing travel on the weekends, a heavier amount of leisure travel, and you definitely see folks with different expectations, folks that are very, very sensitive to COVID, to folks that don't want to hear about it, don't want to see anything that limits the service. But we definitely have to find a way to cater to them all. At the same time, ensuring that all guests are feeling safe. So that requires us to make sure that everyone is abiding by those regulations or policies. And all Marriott properties have it, for example, with having everyone wear a mask in the public spaces. So it's a fine line that we have.
Nelly, I want to bring up two points, and you hit on both of them as well. But just to really hit home on them, and I'll bring back one of the Starwood terms that both of us, or all three of us, I should say, are very familiar with, the deadly sins, right? We talk
Yes.
about those in housekeeping. So from a consumer standpoint, look, those things have always been important to us. We want no evidence of a previous occupant in a room. That's
Absolutely.
always been the goal of every hotel in our industry, whether it's trash on the floor or other things, right? And you mentioned something on the wall. those things are going to lead our guests sometimes down the rabbit hole. And that's especially important today, time of COVID, where, that is evidence that a room was potentially not properly cleaned. And we never want our guests to believe that that's the case. And I think our guests may not understand really how much things have changed behind the scenes. You've simplified some of those things by saying, hey, we put all of our guests, our associates, I should say, through a screening every day, the temperature, the questions, ensuring that they're feeling well. We operate differently behind the scenes. We don't just wear face masks on the front end where our guests can see us. We wear them all the time. We wear gloves all the time. We wash our hands frequently. And we educated all of our associates within the industry extensively on this. Not that we didn't before, but we reiterated it in this time of COVID. And we also, and I know all three of us use the same chemical partner or cleanliness chemical partner in Ecolab. We also changed what we use there. Now we have a chemical that versus what we used before that would kill bacteria and virus in 5 minutes. Now it takes 45 seconds to do that. Those are extensive measures, and I'm simplifying it a little bit as well, just like you did. But it is extremely extensive in the sense that we want to make sure that our associates feel safe coming to work and knowing that they're going into rooms where they potentially don't know if someone has the virus or not, but also that we take care of our guests. We know that by taking care of our associates and taking care of our guests, we're taking care of the people that they go home to as well, and ensuring that we take care of them. I just wanted to make that point because it's an important one that some guests that don't have the good fortune of working in our industry or don't have the understanding of our industry might not know how much goes on behind the scenes. But switching gears here, still on the line of the pandemic, what's been the impact on you personally during and due to this pandemic?
Oh, I lost so many family members, aka my coworkers. I spend so much time at work. I feel as though once you're in the rooms division, you almost stay at work most of my days. So I try to
We
make sure that
live
I have.
there.
Yes,
Yes, yes,
absolutely.
definitely.
So when it happened, we did lose quite a few people at the hotel. But I think in having services that we offered our guests, it's been hard for me not to be able to service you all the way. So at my particular property, we are not offering valet parking. Our restaurant is still closed. Room service is still closed. So when people check in, it's almost as though I've had to switch my mindset of how will I create a unique experience for you? And I can't give you certain things that make us who we are. I can't offer room service. I can't celebrate your anniversary because there's no one here to make you a platter. So I've had to learn how to deal with that. And so part of it also, thankful for my Six Sigma experience, is I've had to go through a lot of process changes for my team. So it takes up a lot of my time because I spend a lot of time at work. When something comes up, then I have to sit down and think through what can I implement that will make it better. So if the guests are complaining that nobody told me you were going to clean my room, so we have a letter that we've given you a check-in. We have another letter in the room. So clearly you're saying to me, you're not reading the letter. My team are not talking to you about it. So then what do I do? What do I put in place to make sure that you get it? So a lot of thinking in the back of the house for me. Miss people that we worked with, have a few new people, but it's just a different work environment. And like I said, being able to engineer this experience with half of what I had before that I felt made us who we were, and how to bring it to life without certain components of who we are.
It's almost like those that work in this industry, and you hit it on the nail on the head earlier. We're the service mindset that's our purpose. We're here to serve you. With this pandemic, it feels like we all feel like something has been taken away from us, like that ability to be able to execute and service in the way we did before. But it has brought about, to your point, a heightened sense of really of understanding what the guest needs are, and also creativity on our end to find ways to still make that experience come whole. And it takes leadership. You sitting back and thinking about, okay, how can I overcome this based upon the scores that you're getting, the comments that you're getting? How can we make this experience whole? That's part of what we do all the time anyway. And I'm not sure how many folks understand this, but right, we review every single survey, every single comment every day. And part of that process is, how do we get better? How do we fix this? How do we get better? How do we fix this? And it's an
Mhm.
never ending process. And the same holds true today. We're always trying to find a way to close that gap. And even through the course of this pandemic, find a way to really deliver upon what our guest expectations are.
You know, one thing that I've noticed or that I've experienced, and I'm sure that you all may have experienced it as well, is that we are a much smaller team. And Nelly, you alluded to this, you know, doing the same things with half of what you had before. But
Yes.
what it has presented us with is an opportunity to fine tune everything that we do, because we have that strong desire to deliver the same level of service. We don't want to go backwards. We don't want to limit what we're offering. But at the same time, we have to balance that with what we're working with. But what I've found is some great success stories in our ability to deliver that same level of service or satisfy our guests to their level of expectation, or hopefully exceeding their expectations with, to your point, 50% of what we had before. So there's coming out of this, and what I hope to see on the other side of this is that all of our hotels, all of our brands, that we come out of this with refined processes that are going to be stronger and also be something that is, you know, just makes much more sense financially too, in some cases where we may have been overcompensating with bodies where service needed to be a focus. So I think that there's going to be an interesting need to find balance with all of that on the other side of this. So, you know, Nelly, let me ask you this. So what is it that you hope for the future of travel and our industry?
I am ready for the coronavirus to be under control somehow.
We all are.
I
We all are, definitely, definitely.
I am so looking forward to travel to come back to life for us. I'm looking forward to our former guests, our new guests that we're gonna get, the loyal guests that we've always had. Just for us to just go back to, I don't even want to say maybe go back. I think that as you said, as we go into the future, I think there's certain things that we're gonna learn from this time period. There's certain processes, like for instance, I like the heightened cleanliness procedures or protocols that we've put in place. So yes, I'm
Right,
going to
right.
keep that as we move forward because I think that's a good thing. But it's just how we take care of guests moving forward. I think it'll be a new learning experience what we're able to put together. But I'm just looking forward to being able to just bring that experience back to life, being able to just engineer a whole stay with everything that I can to just create a different experience for someone. So that's really what I'm looking forward to, is just kind of moving forward with the new, take the old, and then just kind of make it a whole brand new experience.
I was talking to some of the local leaders here in New Orleans with our local CVB and our convention center last week, and there was a question that was asked of me that where they said, "Well, what do you miss the most?" And my answer was a busy lobby and everything that comes with it, because our ability to work the lobby, interact with guests, interact with our fellow associates, and be of service to them, you know, whether it be picking up things, bussing tables, pulling trash, or just ensuring that guests are satisfied. We all pick up on those cues that we talked about earlier. That is what I miss most, and I'm glad that that's you know, part of what you miss and look forward to seeing on the other side of this as well.
Nelly, I want to thank you for, taking the time to chat with us today. I know, because I had the good fortune of working with you, that you are just such a great ambassador for our industry. And over the course of the years, and I haven't worked with you in so many years, it seems like you've evolved as a leader, and just continue to carry the torch for our industry, and just moving the needle forward, and being forward thinking, discussing how we can lead in the future, how we can service in the future. I thank you so much for taking the time out to join us today. If our listeners wanted to get in touch with you, where can they find you? LinkedIn, any Instagram, anywhere else on social media where they can engage with you?
I am on LinkedIn. So under Nelly Chiwala.
Awesome. Well,
Perfect,
I
perfect.
know that there are many in our industry, or many that are aspiring to be in our industry, that would benefit from hearing a little bit more about your track record and your career and what's brought you to the point where you're at today. So just as we all do, right? We love engaging with those folks, and sort of, we in Omni, we call it growing our garden, finding those that are out there that can grow within our industry and excel. So thank you so much. It's been an awesome conversation, and I really enjoy catching up with you.
And a pleasure for
Absolutely.
me
Thank
to,
you. It was my pleasure.
Yeah.
and a pleasure
So-
for me to meet with you as well and have this great conversation.